lots going on right now. We've seen the stories. I mean, there's not enough content to talk for hours. Right. But I want to keep it focused with 2024. Sure. How concerned are you that there may be any kind of election fraud for 2024? And if there was, what would be ways they would go about it this year, knowing the amount of heat they got for 2020?
Yeah, well, I think they're trying a few different things this year that they didn't necessarily try or focus on in 2020. I think illegal aliens is a huge one, and they've opened the border. We've got information that leads me to believe that they are trying to register a lot of these people coming across the border to vote in all 50 states, doing it across the board and making the registration process a little opaque, not very easy to figure out who's legally allowed to vote. So I think the illegal alien push is what I would say is the biggest difference between 2020. I don't think they're shying away from 2020 with the mail-in ballots and, don't go to the polls, mail everything in. They're trying to play the same game that they played in 2020, but it's not going to be as effective and it's not going to have near the impact. So they're trying to supplement it. And quite honestly, I think the fact that they're trying Donald Trump and doing all of the crazy lawfare that they're doing actually is quite encouraging to me. It leads me to believe that they know they don't have it locked in the way that they did in 2020, and so they're trying to do other things this time around.
Okay, so if I ask somebody who is not a Trump voter, okay, a Democrat, or even somebody that's an independent or libertarian voter that is not yet, their vote is undecided. Obviously, the Libertarians just announced their candidate, nothing too exciting that, he's not going to win. It's just somebody that they nominate. RFK in the middle, that, right. Somebody that they're looking at, that somebody for me to consider over Trump. But those who say, well, look, you keep talking about, there was election fraud, they did this, they did that, they stole the election, all these things that they did. But every time you go to court, there's nothing to prove it. That's what many of the people on the left and many independents and libertarians would say to that. What do you say to them?
I'd say that's a great talking point that the left has. It's not entirely true. There have been several court cases, Wisconsin, Michigan, that have said that the manner in which the election was conducted wasn't in accordance with the law. For example, drop boxes in Wisconsin were ruled illegal, and now they're fighting that fight again. In Michigan, the mail-in ballot issue was ruled illegal after the fact. Certainly, they weren't cases that were necessarily challenging the outcome of the election. They were challenging the procedure of the election, which I would say does impact the outcome of the election. So the premise of the lawsuits and everything that people like to raise, I'd say that's not quite accurate, but I get it. We lost on that issue, so let's move forward. At least we have to. Time keeps going forward. But I think that there is a lot of evidence that's coming out. And quite honestly, there's cases now. There's cases in Georgia that raise questions. Anyone who I think is giving a fair investigation into what actually happened, I think at the very least you come out with questions and you say, well, that's weird. I don't think the original narrative that this is the most secure election in U.S. history and there's no evidence of fraud, that we know is not accurate. So if that's not accurate, then what is? And I think that's the open question, right?
So as a voter for me, here's some of my concerns, because anytime, you saw what Vivek did when he got up and says, hey, Ronna McDaniel, I'll give you my time right now. Come and, apologize to Republican voters. We keep losing. We become the party of losers, right? We keep losing, right? And as somebody, Rob, if you can go back to the story that you just had up, exactly the story that you had up, history of voters, how many people can vote, out of what state, driver's license being needed. Rob, you were just on it, right? Zoom in real quick. So here's how this works as of today. As of April 2024, 35 states require voters to present ID in order to vote at the polls on election day. Of these states, 24 required voters to present identification containing a photograph, which means the other 26 don't require a photo ID for me to go out there and vote, which is ridiculous to me if you think about it, right? And 11 accepted other forms of identification. The remaining 16 states did not require voters to present ID in order to vote at the polls on election day. So one may say, okay, specifically to the Trump community, right? Let's just say MAGA. You guys say there is, and there was voter fraud and all this stuff that took place. To the community that wants to feel like their vote counts and there won't be any more manipulation, what has the RNC or MAGA or whatever, that whole community done to make sure there's more election integrity today than there was 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of progress, both I think institutionally as well as with the grassroots, what people are doing. I think the key is people getting involved. I think conservatives, probably more than Democrats, have focused on running their business, raising a family, going to church. They mind their own business and they want the government to stay out of their lives, and they've largely ignored the government. And now we're at a place where you can't ignore the government anymore. You have to do something about it. So I think the biggest difference is people are aware, people are speaking about it, people are getting involved. And if you look at, say, Virginia in 2021, the gubernatorial elections in 2021, which is 1 year after 2020, you had Virginia and New Jersey. In Virginia, you had an army of people show up to work the polls and to volunteer and to kind of watch the process. And that occurred because that was at the same time as the FBI letter came out saying that they were targeting parents. They labeled parents as domestic terrorists at the Loudoun County School Board meetings. And you had the transgender issues. Well, parents in Virginia were really upset, and it was months before the election. So they showed up en masse. And then in New Jersey, same year, you didn't have that same kind of controversy in New Jersey. So you didn't have that same wave of people showing up to get involved and be part of the process. And on election night, the Republican candidate was up in New Jersey and, we have to stop counting. It took them 10 more days. They delayed the vote. It flipped the outcome. And then the Democrat incumbent won re-election in New Jersey 10 days later. So what was the difference between Virginia and New Jersey 1 year after 2020? The difference was the amount of people that showed up to be involved.
The amount of people that showed up to be involved. Okay. So what are you suggesting?
I'd say people get involved. If you're concerned about your local election or you're concerned that your state is somehow compromised, contact your county, become a city worker, become a volunteer to observe the polls. It's not enough to just vote and be part of the process, because that's how, and quite honestly, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you're an honest American who wants the process to work properly, get involved in the process.
What's a typical process there for a citizen to say, hey, I want to volunteer on election day. I'd like it to be safe. What's that process look like, and what would those duties look like? Sure.
So there's a number of different ways to do it. I mean, if you want to be a poll worker, a poll worker, you'd have to apply through your county. That's someone who actually works at the county. Mm-hmm. But if you want to be like an observer, a volunteer that shows, get shifted, you can register through your state party. The RNC has a website called protectthevote.com. You can go there and they'll walk you through the training process. And I think a lot of the training now is via Zoom, and I think there's a couple in-person trainings, but it's very easy, a couple hours of your time to get through the training, and then you get shifted and you go and you observe and challenge and you be part of the process. If you can't physically, if you're limited mobility-wise, there's a lot of grassroots efforts that scrub voter rolls, do all kinds of outreach. Just find something you're interested in and get involved in it, because everyone needs to be involved now.
Yeah, and what role does the RNC play? So there's the state, there's local, there's federal, then there's the RNC. What role does the RNC play to help, future elections are going to be credible, where you're going to have the integrity that others are not going to try to manipulate? At least it's going to happen no matter what. I mean, China's going to be involved, Iran's going to be involved, Russia's going to be involved with them using their technology. They want to be able to do something with that. But within America, what role does specifically the RNC play? Well,
the RNC is the party, obviously. So the RNC is limited by campaign finance laws and, various election laws and campaigning laws. But the role is, we have a couple different avenues to this. Right now we have, I want to say 87 open litigation cases where we're challenging either laws or procedures, voter roll access, all that stuff in I think it's all 50 states at the moment, but I'd have to double check my list. Just making sure that the law is being followed, that the process is being followed appropriately. And then the other side of that is operationally, it's in order to become a poll observer or challenger, you have to get credentialed to be there, and you get credentialed either through the party or through a campaign if you want to work for a candidate somewhere. So the party would help credential people to actually get involved.
I guess one part, like to the most basic level of a questioning, right? Okay, Alvin Braggs or Letitia James, or hey, I'm going to run and we're going to get him, right? Okay, great. Guess what? To the left, to people that are voting for that and wanting, they're like, okay, great, you got him. You got him to have to pay $450 million. E. Jean Carroll, Mar-a-Lago's not worth, $500 million. It's only an $18 million property. And then CNN says it's really 240. And we're getting him. And then 34 counts of felony. Look at the jury coming out, and the judge on July 11th is going to really be talking about what they're going to be doing 4 days before RNC. The Democrats are delivering on their promises.
Yeah.
And then on the right, hey, I'm just so glad that a man like Donald Trump isn't at the White House, because you'd be in jail.
Right.
But that didn't happen. So why is it that the left, when they put the threat that they're going to do something, impeach, do all that other stuff, they're coming through, but the right, is the right more, talking tough, but they don't do, but the left, if they talk tough, like remember that one time Chuck Schumer, right, when he's being interviewed by Rachel Maddow, and he says, I don't know what he's doing. This is not a good strategy because, the DOJ or whatever he uses, the
intelligence community.
This is it right here. Watch this. Rob, can you raise the volume?
Quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And
So, again, the question being, one end, they threaten, they come through. The other end, you threaten, but you don't do anything. You're forgiving, and you move on.
Yeah. No, that's the problem. And I think that's why the MAGA movement has surfaced, has become what it is, because for so long, the Republican Party, and I don't mean the actual party, I mean the Republican side of the aisle, has been exactly that. They've been cowardly. They have been carrying the bags of their Democrat counterparts. And I think that's why the MAGA movement, that's why Donald Trump is popular, because he's not doing that. And finally, you have conservatives that now have to get involved in government who didn't want to because the government's falling apart. They look at Donald Trump and say, thank you. Someone is actually speaking my language. He cares about the things I care about. And I believe he's actually going to do what he says he's going to do. And so that's how Donald Trump got popular.
So let me ask this. Should a President Trump, when he says, because you'd be in jail, should he follow up on his promises and go after Hillary Clinton and go after what they're doing and go after Fauci? Or should he come out and say, look, I know they came after me. Don't worry about it. Let me just go about my business and do what I do and not have to come and hold these people accountable. What should the voter expect from the person they're voting for to come and hold these people accountable?
Yeah, no, I don't anticipate, I can't speak for him, but I do not anticipate Donald Trump turning the other cheek this time around. His first term in office, they had the Russia hoax and they went after him and did the fake impeachments and all that stuff. And he played by tradition, right? Our nation's tradition is we don't target our political opponents. It's not the way that we operate. And then what they do, they turned around and did it. And so I can't speak for what he's going to do or how he's going to do it, but I fully expect the swamp to be drained and all of the corruption to be rid of.
I hope so, because there's guys that there's guys that are wanting to make sure that is going to be happening. It's not just a campaign talk, and then you're in there and that is not taking place. But while these guys say they're going to go after him, they actually do. So it's like a fighter that says, you say something, I'm going to slap you upside the face. And he does. And another person's like, no, he doesn't do anything. The voters are voting because, hey, if this really happened, they said Russia collusion. What happened to hold them accountable? If Fauci today, can you play the clip of what just happened with Fauci today? So Fauci's being grilled today by MTG. But here's the part with Fauci. Just play this clip, him getting emotional, right? You can play the clip here. Go ahead.
Fauci, can you please share with us the nature of the threats you have received since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, there have been everything from harassments by emails, texts, letters of myself, my wife, my 3 daughters. There have been credible death threats leading to the arrests of 2 individuals, and credible death threats mean someone who clearly was on their way to kill me. And it's required my having protective services essentially all the time. It is very troublesome to me.
Wait for it.
It is much more troublesome because they've involved my wife and my 3 daughters.
At these moments, how do you feel? Keep your mic on.
Terrible.
Do you continue to receive threats today?
Yes, I do. Every time someone gets up and says I'm responsible for the death of people throughout the world, the death threats go up.
You can pause it right there. So he's expecting America to sympathize with him. While all these time, hey, Thanksgiving, don't be around your elderly family because you could give them COVID. And that may have been the last time somebody could have seen their grandma or their grandparents. And we're supposed to sit here and be okay with that. See, but there's a community. I have people that are fully against Trump. Those are easy to talk because you already know what their position is. It's very honest. No way in the world they're ever going to vote for him. Then there's a side that no matter what happens, 100% they're voting for him. But I have a lot of people in the community that are in the middle, independent libertarian. They're asking, I want to hold this guy accountable. They believe RFK will hold him accountable because RFK is maniacal about holding this guy accountable for what he did if he gets elected. And they think Trump's going to forgive him and move on and go to the other issues, right? My ask for you is to those people that are sitting there saying, what's going to happen to these guys? They really, they shit on America the last 4 years. I mean, it's been like a mess the last 4 years. This greatest country in the world. Like, what the hell is going on here? They want to make sure there's going to be a level of accountability for some of these guys that want us to sympathize, yet all the millions of people that passed away, all the people that we didn't see, we're supposed to just move on and say, oh, we're so sorry for you, Anthony Fauci. Sorry you're going through this.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much, let's just forget about it and move forward. I think after what they've put Donald Trump through and put his family through and put those of us around him through and what they've been doing to us, not only is it Donald Trump, I mean, Donald Trump's obviously the big one that's in the news all the time that everybody wants to talk about, but they have galvanized everyone around him and everybody that's involved in that circle to say, this is ridiculous. It has to stop. It absolutely has to stop on every single level, on every single issue. The corruption needs to be rooted out. So I agree. I think it's all related from COVID-19 through the 2020 election. I think COVID was largely part of what caused the 2020 election so many problems. And then we're seeing the problems with 2024. So it's all related. I don't see that much of a distinction. It's just different avenues of the same problem.
Yeah, again, we just had a debate with Dave Smith against not Anthony Fauci, he would never show up, against Chris Cuomo. And it went bonkers, viral, all over 3-hour debate. 80% of it was around COVID, and it was unbelievable. People are still frustrated. Okay, let's go to what's going on today. So 34 convictions, convicted felon, that whole thing that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Here's what CNN posts. What rights does Trump lose as a felon? Your questions answered. You can go to the next slide. And obviously, I'm sure you know CNN, a very credible source. So let's go to, can Trump still vote? Most likely, Trump is a Florida resident, and Florida defers to New York law on the question felony voting. New York allows felons to vote as long as they are not incarcerated. Okay. That's still, still determined to see what they're going to be doing. Next, can he travel abroad? The conviction does not automatically prevent him from holding a U.S. passport, but it could make it difficult to travel to some countries. A number of them don't allow felons to enter their borders. Okay, next one. Rob, if you can go next one. So can Trump possess a firearm? Federal law bars those convicted of felony from possessing a firearm, and most states have analogous prohibitions. A case challenging the federal prohibition has been appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, but justices have not yet said whether they'll hear it. Could he get a security clearance? It would be difficult for anyone with a felony conviction to get security clearance, but presidents do not need security clearance.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.